All right, this is fourth grade, module 3, week 1. A couple things before we get into modules. There's a materials list here button. If you will go there, it's going to show you a very short amended list of materials that I recommend for this class. These aren't mandatory. If you don't have them, I don't necessarily need you to run out and get them. But I don't want you to go out and buy a whole lot of materials that are listed in some of these modules that you're only going to use once or twice. If there is something in your house you can creatively think to substitute for any material, whether it's you have crayons that ask for pastels, it asks for colored tissue paper, and you have the tissue paper you blow your nose in, or you have paper towels. Make do with what you have, any substitutions you make, I will always approve. Also, feel free to do that work on a computer or a Chromebook program that will let you draw and paint. You can always submit your work that way as well. Disgustive-based assessments we did last week. Some of them went really well. Most of them went really, really well. But still, several of you have not yet come for the assessment. There'll be times on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 to 3, with the exception of about a half hour around noon or so. I'll take lunch. And last thing, when you are submitting work, if you could submit it as a JPEG or a document .doc, you have to have a submission in your assignments, and I'll show you what I mean. If you go into any assignment and you go to submit, you have to put something where it says choose a file. You've got to choose some file. You can't just write something in comments that it won't allow me to grade that. I recommend that every student make one document that you use every week, week over week, that I can easily access, that you just change the picture in that document. You just put in a new picture for whatever you've drawn that week, take the old one out, put the new one in. But if you use the same folder or file over and over again, you'll know exactly where it is. It should make it a little easier. If you need help and you don't know what I mean by that, just let me know. Email me, and I'll walk you through how to set that up. All right. So we're going to go through that module 3 today. Today's module deals with color. And I don't like the way that these elementary school classes navigate. I am going to work on a way to get rid of a couple of these things in the next few modules. Mostly the individual student, artist exploration. I think some of these are a little long. This one I think makes it a little long. I'm sure some of you probably won't finish in the next week or two, and that's fine. I'll leave the module open. But I don't want you committing more than an hour each week to any of these modules, to art class in general, regardless of what you're doing. You're going to do a color pretest with this module. We're not going to do the pretest because it's different for everybody, and I don't have the questions in advance or answers, so we're just going to jump right into the color module. And as we go through this, I'm just going to try, kind of quickly touch on some of the points that they made here.
Imagine a world without colors. No thanks. Wherever you may be, there are so many colors to see. It starts with the primary colors yellow, red, and blue. Mix them up and make secondary colors too. Don't forget the tertiary ones. These colors blend primary and secondary tones. What a way to step up your color game. There's almost too many colors to name. Like in this sunrise, colors can be warm. But wait, colors can be cold too. Watch them transform. Some colors pop. We call them complementary. They lend each other a helping hand, like musicians in a band. The color wheel is a useful tool. It can help you with this rule. Take a ride to the opposite side. That is where you will find a color's good friend. It's one and only match till the end. Colors can make you feel different emotions. Do you feel happy like these flowers? or restless like a wavy ocean. Tint your hues with the color white. You'll make pale colors like this pink. Add a hint of black or a dab of gray. Changing up pure color can change how the viewer thinks. Color can be neutral or intense. Crank up the color because we prefer it loud, but that's just our 2 cents. Go on, use some color, a little or a lot. What colors will you use in your next work of art? Grab your brush and palette. Give it all you've got.
All right, so as you go through this module, we're going to look at the individual slides associated. Then we're also going to go and look at the Andy Warhol specifically. There's only 3 assignments in the entire module that you're going to end up turning in for assignments. And 3 things that you do, I should say. There's lots of different things you do that are simply for your sketchbooks. There are several studio times in this that don't get turned in. I bring this up because I've got several students who are investing too much time, in my opinion, in the projects that don't really matter as much. And maybe you're getting bored and frustrated before you get to the ones that are going to be graded. So, my suggestion is if you aren't having fun, and this is the measure I would use, if you're not having fun doing a project, don't invest much time in it. Spend time in the ones you're enjoying and you're having fun with. This module's got some cool stuff in it. It's going to talk about the notion of primary and secondary colors. You are already aware that primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. You're probably aware already that if you mix those together, you get the secondary colors. Red and yellow make orange, yellow, blue make green, blue and red make purple. Um, but there's some other types of ways that we describe colors that you may not be as familiar with. Warm colors are going to be like those reds, oranges, and yellows. Those things we might see in fire, where cool colors might be greens and blues and purples a little bit. Those colors that you might see in water or grass, that sort of thing, where we might think of things naturally being feeling cool to the touch. You're going to look at these different videos that talk about why artists use color and a little bit how they use color. This little exercise they're going to have you do, and this is going to be one of those um, assignments that you might want to spend a little time with, because a color wheel is a very valuable thing, and that's what you're going to do here. Essentially, you're going to not just learn about the proportions of the face, the fact that the eyes are about halfway between the top of the head and the bottom of the chin. Learning that the mouth, for instance, is about halfway between the eyes and the bottom of the chin. The nose is about halfway between the mouth and the eyes, that sort of thing. These are the rules that help us understand how to do placement of eyes and nose and mouth to make a face look correct. But also, it's a color wheel exercise. And when you combine those two, it's kind of a neat thing. You get a color wheel that's not just useful, but it's really cool and interesting to look at. Again, it's one of those things that I would probably spend a little bit more time on, and that's what this project is. Um, but again, only as much time as you are having fun doing. Okay. Talking about color connection, you're going to look at why colors are brighter, with a difference between contrasting colors and colors that are lighter versus colors that are darker, or those complementary colors they talked about, colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. When we look at complementary colors, we're looking at colors like red and green. Red is across from green. When we put green on top of red, it wants to pop off the surface of the paper or the artwork. That blue on top of that orange makes it really propel out towards us. So when we see those complementary colors, and again, complementary colors are opposite each other in the color wheel, they naturally create excitement. When we're creating emphasis, that's what the area wants the area of a painting that the eye wants to look at most. It's what's usually most visually appealing to the eye. One of the ways that you can create that is create contrast. Contrast, again, we can consider light to dark, but also contrast might be large to small. It might be bright to darker in values when we start looking at those tones and tints of color. And so that's where we start talking about the idea of intensity, how bright or dull a color is, and that sort of reflects that intensity. In the studio time, you're going to be making some cool stuff. This is one of those, again, I think would be fun, but again, don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes on some of these things at the most. I don't want you spending more than an hour in an entire week. Now, module 3, we've got all this week and all next week, so you've got 14 days to be working on this. Hopefully, that'll be plenty of time. But again, in that whole time, don't spend more than 2 hours, 1 hour each week, okay? Looking at magic colors, how colors are altered by black, white, and gray. When we add white to a color, we get something we call a tint. When we add black to a color, we get something we call a shade. And when we add those grays, we get tones. And that's one of the things they're going to talk about in that video when you watch. And so creating tints and shades and tones is something they're going to ask you to do. Again, it's one of those things. If you have the appropriate materials, you can use those. If you have something else that you can use to get close, that's fine. But again, if you're not turning it in for an assignment, don't spend a lot of time on that project. Yes, hue. Hue is just a fancy word for color. They're going to talk about that notion of hue as you go through the module. Um, the studio times where you're mixing colors again, these are kind of cool. But again, if you don't have paint, there's a lot of things that you can use other than paint. I've had students use. I mentioned. Excuse me. Food coloring mixed into mayonnaise or into whipped cream or into Cool Whip. Any of those types of things can make color that you can mix together to complete any of these assignments. If you use something like that, you're going to have to throw it away. That stuff will rot, it'll turn bad. But these are just exercises that help you learn a process. This isn't something that you're intended to keep for a very long period of time. So, again, get creative with those materials. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy anything ever, really. All right. We're looking at the notion of tertiary colors in this one. And so, in this section, so tertiary colors are those colors that lie between a primary, like red, and a secondary, like orange. So, if we mix red and orange together, we're going to get a brand new color. We're going to get a tertiary color. So, for instance, if I mix that red with orange, I get a red orange. If I mix that primary color of yellow with the secondary color of green, I get yellow green. Yellow green is a tertiary color that lies between the primary color of yellow and that secondary color green. If we look at blue and purple, if I mix that primary blue, secondary purple, I get a tertiary color, which is this sort of indigo, this blue purple, if you will. So understanding that tertiary colors are those ones that lie in between, you can then begin to understand that there's really an infinite range of color in between each of these, and that this color wheel isn't just these slices that we see here. It's realistically far more than just these 12 colors, but it's all the colors that lie in between those colors. What they're talking about now is adding white to make a tint. If we want to make a shade, we're going to add a little black to a color. And again, to make a tone, we're going to add a little gray to it. So this is a tone of this green. This is a tint of this red. And this is a shade of this purple color. Warm and cool colors. Typically, we think of, if we look at this, the color wheel, the top half, if you will, the yellow, orange, and red, those are the warm colors. The bottom of it we consider to be those cooler colors. And it's the same with all the tertiary colors that fall in between them as well. So you're going to be asked to do one more project here at the end of this. And it goes through and has you painting a little bit. This is one I would have fun with. And again, if you're enjoying it, invest a little more time in it. And have fun where you're having fun. But again, if you have already invested a lot of time and you are getting a little worn out, do the very minimum you need to complete the assignments, and you'll always be given full credit. I mostly want to see that you understand the skill. If it's saying, asking you to mix tertiary colors, so long as I see that somewhere you've mixed a little orange with a little red to make a red orange, or any primary with any secondary to make a tertiary, you've demonstrated you know what that means, and that's all you have to do. Okay, so this is a wrap up of the general module. I do want to quickly look at one extension of this module. And again, I'm going to looking at ways we can minimize having extensions. This one, for instance, is on Andy Warhol alone and runs 22 um, slides long. It's an interesting little outtake, and it's a little module extension that is very involved. It has a lot of great information, explains some cool processes, but this is one of those that for fourth grade, in my particular opinion, is not one that you're going to probably do. Now, last year, if you were at Ashland Elementary, we did screen printing. You screen printed actually the very shirt that I'm wearing right now. So you screen printed one of your own. You probably have this very shirt, but you didn't make the screen, and you didn't have to do the photo emulsion and establish the design. And that's a lot what this goes through. That's a lot of steps that in fourth grade, even understanding how that happens isn't necessarily important. But I would like for you to kind of look at some of the studio time. One of the assignments that you actually turn in is one for Andy Warhol. And I believe it's actually the one that's at the very end. And so, again, the ones that aren't getting turned in, don't spend much time on. The only reason this one uh, I don't hate so much is because uh, Andy Warhol is one of those artists that you are going to continue to see as you get older. He was very influential. A lot of the modern art and pop art that we see today is directly linked back to Andy Warhol and what he did. So again, you're going to have this is another one of those exercises that spend only as much time as you want. I will say that this is one of those you should pick up the skill and always keep this one with you. A photo grid is a fantastic way to do an enlargement or transfer of any image. It's one of the coolest skills you'll learn in any modules, and it's really the reason I leave that I wouldn't take this part of the module out, even if I could this week. But I just want to emphasize one more time: don't spend more than an hour. This is the one you turn in, I believe, for your final project for the Andy Warhol assignment. Again, it says you're going to need watercolors and brushes of different sizes. Anytime you need watercolor and brushes, you can use that food color mixed with a little water. And as far as brushes, around here we use paper towels very often. If you have any of those little sponge brushes, you can use those as well. So again, get creative. Your mom might have old makeup brushes you can use, that sort of thing. But don't feel like you need to go out and spend a lot of money. Again, anything like this, you can also take a try at it on a computer program. You don't have to spend any money on those materials that way. So I hope you enjoyed the project. Good luck with this week's lessons. And if you have any questions or need any help, send me an email and we will. I'm sorry, this is the one that gets turned in for the assignment. And this is the one I would probably spend the least amount of time on. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's cool. It's a neat little assignment. But that photo transfer that I showed you just a few slides back is a much more valuable skill. And so, again, spend as much time as you want on this one. Absolutely no more than you need to. Um, and this is one of those things, glue and scissors you might have. If you don't have a large piece of paper, you're going to submit this digitally anyway. Size doesn't matter. When it comes to, uh, you know, paints and those types of things, again, if you can complete anything on a computer application or program, always please know you have that option. All right. You all have a great day. Thank you.